This is Defenders TV Podcast, episode 132, where we're talking about The Punisher, Season 1, Episode 11, Danger Close.
I hear a lot of people saying the blues, but I'm gonna tell you what the blues is. When you ain't got no money, you got the blues.
Welcome back, fellow Defenders. It is I, Chris, and you are listening to Defenders TV Podcast, episode 132, where we are talking about The Punisher, Season 1, Episode 11, Danger Close. Oh yes, danger is in the air. We are entering the danger zone. I've already introduced myself, but I'm going to hand over to my two fantastic Punisher advocates in crime, vigilantes, if you will, my other podcast hosts.
It is I, Jon.
And I'm your other co-host, Derek. Danger is close. We've let Chris take over the mic since he's been away for a little while.
I know. It feels good to be back. I've got a tan on me. I was journeying across South Africa. I've seen a lot of guns. I feel closer to the Punisher already. The police over there kind of walk around with M16s and you're like, oh God. But yeah, so I'm now ready. I've watched all my episodes. I'm back up to speed and I'm dying to jump right in and talk about what is potentially a fantastic episode. But I will not spoil anything just yet.
So that means you're not going to defend it then, Chris?
Yeah, probably. Who knows?
What did you think of episode 9 and 10, Chris, since you weren't with us for those ones?
So I've been very up and down in the series, and I think our listeners will know there's points where I'm ebbing, where I'm kind of going, this is getting me sucked in, and then I'm kind of waning off a bit. I think it's a bit about the actual subject matter. Like, don't get me wrong, the direction, the writing, the overall cinematography, the acting is fantastic. I think I was never a huge Punisher fan. Like, I've read some of the War Journal stuff, but it's more Punisher equals Spidey team-ups.
Yeah. This
is less superhero based. It's more CIA. It's intrigue, film noir, that kind of stuff. Thriller based. And I think that's kind of potentially where my waning has happened. Although I can now say the last two episodes has sucked me right back in again.
Yes.
It's the culmination of some of the storylines we've got, which were fantastic. Like, just the tense standoff moment with the Claymore.
Yeah.
Seeing Billy Russo, seeing the evolution of that character, I think, has gone from billionaire playboy, kind of almost, to descending into, I just not say madness, but seeing his true colours.
Yes.
Kind of, like, things like that I'm loving.
I was so sorry you weren't with us for the Lewis episode, as we were calling it. Back in episode 9, an excellent episode, and episode 10. Really, really good episodes there. Yeah,
and I remember we had questioned, where are they going with this? Why? What is this storyline? What has it got to do with the main storyline? And I now see what they were doing, and it was amazingly clever.
Yeah.
And I actually didn't think about it. You are literally seeing the juxtaposition of the Punisher versus someone who the Punisher could be.
Exactly.
The Punisher without, I don't want to say moral compass, ethics. No, I don't know. It's how easily Frank could slip into that person, but fight for some of those things, because he does fight for some of those things as well, but not at the behest of innocence.
Yes.
And I think that's where it comes down to. Like, Frank calling out there was innocent people when he was talking to Lewis on the phone.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's definitely a mirror, but it's even like you get the hint in this episode where Micah kind of goes, and this has to stop Frank. You know, he's kind of suddenly realizing that Frank could just, like the Duracell bunny, go on and on and on, but just with more guns.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for joining us for this episode. Obviously, Chris and our fellow Defenders, as always. If you want to subscribe to the podcast, just make sure you go to our website over at defenderstvpodcast.com and you'll see all the subscribe links in there. The reason why I'm doing this right now is because I don't want to spoil the episode before I give out our sharing links. If you want to join us over at our Facebook group, you can come to us at facebook.com/group/defenderstvpodcast. And if you want to send any emails in about the penultimate episode and the final episode, just email us to feedback@defenderstvpodcast.com. tv.com.
And did you mention the voicemails?
No, I didn't.
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, please send in your voicemails for the last 2 episodes of The Punisher. And you will receive a bag of sweets.
Sweets may not be received.
Terms and conditions apply. Sweets may not be received. They may be audible sweets only, like us singing. I always wanted to do that kind of terms and conditions apply. That's my new voiceover piece in the background.
I like it. And Chris, since you haven't been here in a while, and since the New Year's resolution for Defenders TV podcast and the fellow Defenders is to share the love, who should they be sharing our episodes with?
They should be sharing it with their grannies, their grandfathers. We had a discussion on our Facebook page all about why you should share it with your grandmothers, and I've expanded out to the grandfathers as well. This is a fantastic episode about love, about hate. It will give them a warm, fuzzy feeling inside that there is a guy like Frank Castle running around, looking after their city or their country. You can call it their stories instead of Dallas or Coronation Street or Home and Away or whichever of those stories they like. This is a new story. This is a gritty, realistic story. Hell, you could even tell them it's the news. They may not know. Just put it on in the background and say, did you see what happened? Scare your grandfather, scare your grandmother, who knows. But based on what I've heard about Jessica Jones Season 2, it's going to be for the children in your life. It's going to psychologically scar them at a young age. Well, let's see how that works out. But I won't spoil the surprise until episode 1 of Jessica Jones Season 2.
Excellent, with all episodes coming on March 8th. That's right.
Perfect.
But speaking of that, and because I keep talking so much in this episode already, and it's only a few minutes in, Derek, please take the mic away from me and tell us all the episode details.
Absolutely, yeah. This episode was written by Felicia D. Henderson. She wrote episode 8 of The Punisher, and we talked about it there and some of her experience in the past, working on other shows, a lot of comedy shows in the past, which is really interesting given the 2 episodes that she's written for The Punisher are quite serious episodes. The episode was directed by Kevin Hooks. Got a very long career in TV, right back from Saint Elsewhere and V and Fame in the 80s to the movie Passenger 57 with Blade himself, Wesley Snipes, in the 90s. He also did episodes in seasons 1 and 2 of Lost and some from Prison Break as well. And more recently, and probably a bit more relevantly, he'd done 3 episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. over the years, over across multiple seasons, not just one season. So he does have a good knowledge in the Marvel Universe and puts it to good use with The Punisher, I think.
I really do. And yeah, the weird that it was comedic backgrounds, because let's just say there are not that many shits and giggles and laughs in this episode.
Nice one, Chris.
Excellent, yeah. They're probably rebelling against their former comedy past and bringing a bit of realistic brutalism and violence.
Absolutely. And John, do you want to tell us what they gave us with your synopsis for the episode?
Sure. Violence. That's my shortest synopsis ever.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, sure. Frank Castle, bruised and battered, calls time with Micro, believing that his solo run to inform Dinah Madani of the events and people at Kandahar has betrayed their partnership. Elsewhere, William Rawlins attempts to gain sympathy from CIA Deputy Director Marion James in an attempt to use CIA resources to track Frank Castle. As Rawlins uses all his resources to hand, danger knocks on Sarah Lieberman's door, as both Sarah and Zach are kidnapped by Russo's men. As the dominoes fall, Frank and Micro's location is traced off the back of Sarah's cell phone. Frank anticipates this course of action, but as Frank makes preparations at the disused power station, he has second thoughts about breaking his partnership with Micro, as they both see the events at the Lieberman home unfold and see Leo elude capture. As David reunites with her at an old family hangout and enlists Madani's aid, Castle ambushes and kills the assault team in the power station as he takes his quest for vengeance to the next level with some help from the Punisher. After her grilling at Homeland Security by Madani and her boss, Deputy Director Marion James calls time on Rawlins' duplicitous nature, asking that he fix his problem by sacrificing Russo and resigning his position to protect the agency. With his assault team dead, Russo arranges a location for a hostage exchange site, demanding that Castle and Lieberman exchange themselves for Sarah and Zach.
That is a good synopsis of this episode. That's every single major character left on the show appeared in this episode, really, isn't it?
Pretty much.
And I love, we have to actually, only in Punisher should we have to say, left in the series. Still alive.
Although I did like my shorthand synopsis at the start.
Violence!
A lot of headshots, like a lot of bullets in the face.
Can I say one thing before we get into our top 5 points?
Absolutely.
Ladies and gentlemen, fellow defenders, we will go through our top 5 points, what we consider ours, conjoined top 5 points. We'll work them through, and then we'll finish up working through a quick defense, whether we defend or do not defend this episode, and each of us will come to our own agreements or our own decisions. But I did want to have quickly say, guys, how Garth Ennis of an episode was this?
100%.
Just like the rolling head got me, and I just went, I'm pretty sure I saw that in a comic book. I'm pretty sure I've seen that he'd do that before in a comic book.
Yep.
Like, we haven't seen this level of Ennis-esque violence since episode 1.
We did joke about the ending scene of last week's episode where our Frank zip lines across 2 buildings being an absolute Punisher moment from the comic books. So there's definitely been a lot in the past. I think when his first appearance in Daredevil that we saw, where he killed all the Kitchen Irish, that was a very Punisher moment as well. But you're absolutely right, this scene here, and it's rightly so. This is the first time we've seen the skull back on Frank Castle's chest since he burnt it at the start of the season. So this is the moment where he's saying, I am your Punisher. I am the Punisher.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of where Frank went from PGL Adventure Playground for the weekend with his zip lining straight through to SAS kind of assault course, kind of, let's just blow up 1 million people with like one person and a bit of duct tape kind of thing, you know?
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. And don't forget all the packing peanuts. Those packing peanuts can apparently hide quite a lot of weapons.
Yes, they can.
But, gentlemen, I think it's time we get into our war journal. Let us start with point 1 in the war journal. Billy calls out Frank as a monster.
Yes.
What an intro. When he's on the beach beside the fire can and Frank's going through those memories of Billy from all the flashbacks we had to everything in between. It took me a second to kind of figure out why this was happening. Like, I didn't know, okay, maybe they're just going to say I'm sitting there, Michael comes, collects him, etc.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh no, this is Frank realizing. This is Frank understanding everything that's just happened. Like, processing it in a very Frank Castle way, looking gloomy on the side of the Hudson River, kind of just going, poor Pete Castellano.
Yes, I like our description of it as a beach. It's not somewhere I would like to unroll my towel and put on my Speedos to sunbathe and go for a dip. But that was really kind of cool, I thought. And I mean, certainly given the monster that Billy has become as well. I mean, like the pot calling the kettle black, I think, on this one.
Yeah, like this is the real moment that Frank is realizing the monster that Billy is, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, just that closeness, that brotherhood. I mean, I love the fact that they chose that line that, you know, you're still my brother, Frank. I thought that was perfect choice of a line. And I mean, also just to see Frank's reaction to Billy there, but you also have Madani's reaction with the classic mug of coffee into the TV screen as she just kind of realizes just how much of a face he can put on. And, you know, this really comes through the episode when they meet at Homeland Security as well. But, I mean, really good to see Billy there. Obviously, he's been released from, you know, because he was arrested in the stairwell by the police. So, you know, obviously his connections there, what his role was, has meant that, you know, he's free to go. But I love the fact that that's probably tearing Dinah Madani up so much.
And he knows it, that line on TV when he's talking to the interview and says, I have a very close relationship with law enforcement. That is absolutely intended for Dinah Madani to hear and to be pissed off about as well. He's just throwing it in her face. Yeah,
for me, Ben Barnes deserves an Emmy Best Supporting Character in this, because you've gone from loving this charismatic character to seeing the evolution. I've said evolution quite a lot, but I do mean it's probably the best way to describe it. You've actually seen his true colours, this very conniving, devious man. But I wanted to scream at the TV when Dinah basically brought Russo into the interview room and recorded him and then let him do those jabs, because she essentially just threw that whole interview and herself into question as her boss calls out. That really annoyed me, because I'm like, whoa, you just basically showed that you have a personal, like, get someone else to do it. It's fine. She should have called obnoxious non-unknown agent number 3 into that scene and had him sit there and ask the questions. Like, seriously, you could have done that.
But Billy calls out from the start, though, doesn't he, that it's not a real interview. He says it to her. He knows it's not, because she's there alone, which she would never be allowed to do. So there is that moment where you know she's actually just trying to get into Billy's head. The fact that she knows that he murdered her partner, she actually just wants to slap him across the table or give him a proper punch or a shot to the head, really. I love the fact that in this discussion, after this discussion, when she eventually is letting Billy out, they just say they're having a chat. It's nothing legal here. And then she goes to him, you never know, maybe Frank might find you. Maybe he might be on the loose for a bit longer than you think. You never know. Maybe he might get a tip off. So she is threatening him in this scene in the best way that Dinah Madani knows how to.
I think the two characters here in this episode are absolutely just incredible. I mean, the cutthroat tension between the two, between Madani and between Russo, is amazing. Amber Rose Revah and Ben Barnes, I mean, are just so good in this episode. I love her comeback to him, as you've mentioned. But I mean, similarly, the Billy Russo charm and outward exterior, you get those moments where the camera is focusing in on him, and you really kind of, you see that smarmy smile coming on Ben Barnes' face as Billy Russo, and it's just so good. But I have to say, Dinah Madani in this, her encounter not only with Billy Russo, but also with Marion James, the deputy director of the CIA, I absolutely loved it because of the two people involved in the scene, whether it's Mary Mastrantonio or it's Ben Barnes. Really good here. I thought I was like going, just hit him or shoot him in the head or something. But I definitely think, it's really weird that she would do that other than to get under his skin. But nonetheless, there's the recording now. So, I mean, how will it pan out? But I suspect she doesn't really want this to go to court anymore and go through proper law enforcement channels. So, it'd be really interesting.
We'll see. I do love that moment when Dinah twists it and starts talking about Rawlins and talking about his mother and her signing away the papers. For Billy. I love that flip in his face when he just has that moment of realization that actually she has a lot more on me than I think she does.
Yeah, well, when you share a bed with someone for what we can only assume is a couple of weeks, you're gonna learn shit. The one thing I find so funny is I actually, in my trips, I end up on the plane watched Narnia. The Chronicles of Narnia, and Ben Barnes is Prince Caspian.
He is Prince Caspian. Yes, he is. Yes.
That is a slight change in acting skill, just slightly,
just a bit.
Well done. But getting on, I just really want to get back to when Dean is talking to her boss, and she said, "I just did it to shake the tree and see what fell." When he echoes that at the end, I'm like, this is actually getting interesting, because he now understands when she pulls out the recording instrument and goes, this is what was going on, this is why I'm doing this to Billy, this is he killed my partner, yada yada yada. Him pulling in Rawlins' boss, the interplay between these bad guys now, and one being CIA, the other being Homeland, and how they are fighting but there's still politics and there's the greater good of the country. But then you basically have the two bosses are like, okay, trying to play politics, be nice, civil, but trying to annoy each other, shake things a bit. But then you have Dinah and Billy, their two subordinates, going crazy. Like they don't care. They don't care anymore. This is where I'm seeing that I'd love to see her have a bit of a break where she kind of starts seeing the world from Frank's angle. Justification, vindication, vigilantism outside of the law has its benefits.
Right.
And that's where I can see a season 2 happening, which is when you have shit that the government or Homeland Security or the police cannot look after. Who do you call? Not the Ghostbusters. Frank Castle, the Punisher.
That actually sounded really like the A-Team opening.
Yeah.
Oh my god, yes! Who are you going to call? Micro, A-Team. But gentlemen, do we want to move on to point 2 of our war journal?
Yes. Sarah, Leo, Zach all find out who Pete Castiglione actually is. Really good idea here. Obviously, this is quite a big crime in New York that's happened. So, of course, they're going to be watching TV and see Frank Castle on their screens. I'm slightly surprised they didn't know that he was Frank Castle before now, because obviously he was in the trial of the century during Daredevil. So his face would have been plastered on screens when he was in the city beforehand. So, but it is good. At least they have the realization here. I must say, quite surprised that Zach has called the police. He's the one that takes his mobile and runs upstairs and calls the cops to tell them that Pete's been over at their house or Frank's been over at their house. I'm quite surprised he did that, because they had that big heart-to-heart where Frank solved the issues for him a couple of episodes ago. So I kind of thought they had more of a friendship than this would lead you to believe.
Yeah, I mean, I just thought he felt let down, basically, that that he was lied to, and that's why then, given he's supposed to be a terrorist, all this stuff is still out there. They don't know Frank Castle, and he's been sort of pretending as Pete. So for them, for Zach, I suppose in particular, he never wanted Pete in the house in the first place, and maybe just he's feeling his initial suspicions of this guy were founded despite that talk.
Good point.
It's also that you do get that sense of his troubled relationship still with his mum. So yeah, I mean, certainly I think here Zach was also sticking it to his mum a bit.
Yeah, no, good point.
And I believe Derek wrote this, and I think he's just too nice of a producer to call this out. But once again, this episode proves kids are a-holes. Really, I'm stealing it and I'm saying I put words in your mouth. I wanted to strangle that kid.
It just felt like he had that moment of reprieve for me, like that moment where they're playing American football in the front in the front of the house. That's that moment where you're going, okay, Zach's problems are gone. He has someone to listen to. He's able to talk to his mom again. That's where they're getting to. And then all of a sudden, he's calling the police on Frank.
And
look how much trouble he gets them into.
I get what you're saying, but technically he did kind of probably do the right thing in any normal other non-comic booky situation. It's not to say he's not an a-hole as such, but that is still, he probably did do the right thing. But I mean, you can really tell here that Sarah just wants to keep her head below the parapet and that of her family. I mean, it's a protective call by her to why she tells them on the sofa, to not do anything, to just keep it quiet, because as well, she's had the whole thing with her husband, David. And again, that was all law enforcement agency. And she's probably just like, too many bad memories. And of course, she's right, because little do they know that behind all of this is her husband and all the baddies within all the US government agencies. And so here we get, bad cops. Not good cops, bad cops.
Very bad cops, yes.
Very bad cops.
They should have their own theme tune.
I do like the fact that she used a meat tenderizer on his head. I mean, she was, the defensive lioness here. I really enjoyed that from her. I love, she used her smarts as well to just make sure that Leo stayed upstairs, made the cover story, all of that. Really good. But unfortunately, Zach, again, come on, Zach, listen to your mother. Tries to run and gets caught outside the back door.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I saw the guy, and within 30 seconds of this Russo, agents of Russo, I should potentially call them. Not Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Agents of Russo. Agents of Anvil. Even better. There you go.
There you go.
The AOA. in 30 seconds, you could see something was off about this cop. And you could see Sarah kind of really straight away starts to understand this. She's getting a bit frightened. Yeah, Zach in this whole piece for me just, again, he's slipping into that, and I can see where you're coming. If in the real world, this was the right thing to do.
It was, absolutely.
Yes, and I'm not saying that. I'm saying in a comic book world, this kid is just like, be a good kid. Don't be a teenager. Don't let your hormones control you. Just do as your mother says. Get straight A's, stop stealing stuff, don't bring a knife home. Yes. Things like that.
In comic book world, there's some murderers that are nice murderers that we like and don't want to go to prison, and there's other murderers who are not nice murderers, and then you want to report them to the police.
Exactly. Like, we just need to give this kid a rule book, comic book rule book.
Comic book rule book, yes.
Absolutely. But definitely the agents of Anvil need to really seriously consider their, police disguise, especially in their manner in which they approach people. Because, he just walked into the house.
Yeah.
Like, no wonder that Sarah's heckles stood up and she took the defensive position, because, as well, he was trying to force his way into chatting with Zach and then just, walking through the house. It's like, excuse me, where do you think you are?
If you want to convince someone of something, do it with confidence, I think is the way he was taught. Walk right into their house, into their kitchen, and then go, you're both coming with me now. No chance, love.
I have to say that the one bit where we do see Zach, first of all, Leo getting away, fantastic. Really cool. Just see her running, vaulting out of the window, falling out of the window. But that was cool. Zach and Sarah being taken away to that, I'm assuming it looks like a warehouse, an abandoned warehouse, just based on what's there.
There's hundreds of those in New York, Chris, isn't there? Yeah. You've seen most of them.
Yeah, I've literally gone into each one and kind of went, oh, this is Daredevil season 2. Oh, this is Daredevil. No. But what we see Zach kind of understanding the predicament he's put him in is going, are we going to die? And then you see the pure childlike fear on him. Yes. Where Sarah's now then putting up the mammy bear, the mammy protector. No, it's all going to be fine, yada, yada, yada.
She didn't react quick enough to him, though, did she?
No, not really.
Let me just let him cry for a couple more seconds, and then I'll tell him we're going to be okay. Yeah.
It's just like, I'm going to let him stew. He got us in this predicament.
If it comes down to it, Zach, you're first.
I was trying to figure out why this was happening. This took me a second to cop on into... I didn't think they were agents at Anvil. Maybe I'm just slow, but I was like, When we see Russo and Rawlins there looking at them, it kind of all clicks into place. And that was another great, great scene between these two characters where we do see Russo going, we'll go after Frank. And he goes, oh yeah, you're going to come with me. Oh, you're not? Okay, well, I'll kind of stay here. I'll stay with you.
Yes.
We see now Russo kind of... Where there was, I think, I don't know if I'm imagining it now, kind of back when we have seen them in their, say, the study. There was an element of Rawlins was saying jump. Russo was kind of not 100% saying, yes, sir, jumping on command. There was a bit of kind of thing, but he was still doing what Rawlins said. But now we see him kind of going, you're screwing this up left, right, and centre. Mm-hmm. I'm the one trying to fix this. I'm putting my company on the line, my guys on the line, my face on the line, because his face is Anvil's face.
Yeah, it really is kind of like the serpents starting to eat their own tail. Sort of all this stuff is kind of crashing in on them and they're eating themselves, really. I thought it was really good because, there is this betrayal now between Rawlins and Russo, and I think that does neatly send us into our third war journal point, which is Rawlins and Marion's relationship falls apart, but equally on the basis of that, Russo and Rawlins also really have had it. Both of them are willing to betray the other here, and certainly Rawlins is, and Russo, as you say, making sure that he's not going to do as Rawlins commands now, and you just wonder, he's using Anvil resources, so what's he going to do? And I think this is a nice thing that's kind of been kicked off here in this episode to see how that really deteriorates. But for me, seeing Marion, the deputy director of the CIA, and Rawlins those two confrontations that they have, one down by the waterfront and one on the bridge, I absolutely loved them. It was proper kind of, it felt X-Filey to some extent. You know, it felt Homeland. And I like that Marion comes out of it really well. Okay, she's there trying to protect the agency, and I can understand that. You know, she is deputy director. She's thinking of political, geopolitical, diplomatic, all these different kinds of things. She absolutely then says, Rawlins, you're out. You're finished. I don't want any piece of your shit. You know, I love the fact that when he's talking about we and all that, she just kind of looking at him going, what's this we business? I mean, okay, it's about, you know, when the shit hits the fan, where's it going to land? But she's still there going, I asked you. And I love that that came back into it as well. And it's really good that Marion, I think, is saying to Russo, you have to fall on your sword here. I am not going to protect you, because I think so many storylines such as this will lead to this sort of mass organizational cover-up, and she is not wanting to do that. All she's saying is, you protect the agency, you betray Russo, and then after that, we're done. You resign your position, and that's it. I don't want to see you again, and I don't want you as part of my team in the CIA. And secondly, when she goes into Homeland, where, you know, the tree has been shook by Raffi, I really think her and Dinah together as well, really good. I think Marion is excellent in this episode, and it's great for a character that we've only seen for a few minutes earlier on. She suddenly just, it's like this volcanic explosion of her, and 3 really good scenes from Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio. I definitely still wanted her to shout Robin at the top of her voice like she did in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. And I really wanted Alan Rickman to come in and kind of try and cut her heart out with a spoon as well.
Okay, I just always would love to see Alan Rickman back. That would be wonderful, but maybe
Absolutely.
not with the spoon.
Yeah, I'm kind of, this is not the Tick. It is superheroes, but not the Tick. Yeah, I really enjoyed this. I kind of wanted to, part of me, I know you were saying that you wanted Marion you didn't want her to kind of do the mass cover-up. I was kind of hoping she would, because I can see this Watergate Deep Throat-like scandal landing on Karen Page's desk. Karen being the one to bring this level of corruption in the CIA out. Like, that would be, like, I can see that kind of being a lovely thread into season 2.
Maybe.
It is, but it's a massive trope in this kind of thing.
It is. Yeah, it is. And I thank you. Yes, I know I'm actually wanting a trope. There you go. Okay, fair point. I withdraw my comment.
No, it's fine. I think it would have been equally exciting to have seen that, because I think the writers on this show have absolutely shown to be superb, and you know, the dialogue is intricate. Nothing is kind of left out or missing. You know, as I say, you know, we've seen that one conversation between Rawlins and Marion where she's kind of asking him directly, is there anything on you? I want to bring you to be my second in command. Is there anything? And this is where it all plays out. And that is really good. And yes, I think normally you would expect it to play out where she's kind of like, yes, we have to protect the agency. But the very thing that Rawlins has always admired in her, which is her straight talking, she's not worried about the politics. It's about the aims, the objectives of the agency, come ultimately down to bear on him, because she is not willing to undermine her own sort of ideas, her integrity, which is what Raffi, you know, kind of has to just remind Dinah when she's pushing Marion after she's left, you know, that Marion is one of the good guys. Yes, he's gone and rattled her cage to see what falls from the tree, what fruit falls, what comes out from the, you know, the dusty drawer, but he knows that she has
ethics.
ethics. Yeah, exactly. I like the fact that she stood with those and effectively tells Rawlins to go, run and jump.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's also addressed in the storyline as well, Chris, with Dinah, where she comments on the fact that nobody believes the CIA anymore anyway. So would this be a huge story for Karen? Because effectively what Dinah says is, well, I don't think the public would be in any way surprised by some of the shit your agency gets up to, So it is the writers kind of going, this is a way we could have taken it, but we're not going to do that. We're going to give a really strong character moment for Marion in this episode. And I think it works.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, but I do think the writers would have done a good job with the trope. But it was nice not to see a trope.
Gentlemen, I think on that note, let us remove on that trope of the trope of a trope. Let's move on to point 4 of our war journal.
Mm-hmm.
Our Punisher is back.
He is.
This is for Dolph. This
Scary.
is for Thomas Jane. This echoes the films of yesteryear. But my God, when Frank sprays the skull back into his bulletproof vest, I was happy.
Oh yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
That was very cool.
There is another Punisher as well, isn't there? Ray Stevenson.
True. But he is no Thomas Jane to me. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, I'm an Expanse fan. Thomas Jane can do no wrong. He is a Punisher. Actually, what we can do, end of episode 13, let's rank our Punishers 1 to 4. Let's put it down in vocal record, audio record, if you will.
Okay.
I'm not writing it anywhere because that can be used against me in a court of law. But yes, we got this, and I actually have to admit, I really liked how we got the skull, and Micro is the one to explain what the hell the skull is. It is not just a cute artistic flair of creativity from Frank Castle. No, the skull is memento mori.
Yes,
and that is apparently Latin for remember you will die. And when we hear about the slave walking behind the Roman generals,
yes,
screaming at him, remember that, like, you may have won a battle, but you will still die.
Yeah.
The more you continue, the more wars you fought.
I am Spartacus.
Yeah, I was going to go I am 300. We get to see a lot of shirtless Frank in this season.
Well, that's true. We did get the Marvel Labs here. We got Frank's Marvel Labs.
Mm-hmm. And unsurprisingly, it is the Punisher, Frank Castle's version of the Marvel Labs, because they're covered in blood and they've got loads of cuts all over them. So, yeah.
And just quickly, really good continuity in that when he takes off and rips off his top, he's got bruises on his back where he's been hit by the bullets from the previous episode.
Very good.
I was actually looking out for that because I am such a nerd and a geek for continuity, and I was like, fair play, loved it.
And a nerd and geek for Marvel Labs.
Well, absolutely. We definitely have to have somewhere to wash our laundry on, other than a washing machine.
True, very, very true. Those washboard abs, they are here to stay for the Marvel universe. Gentlemen, let's get into this violence.
Yes.
Oh, this is dramatic.
Absolutely, and it is really a nightmare version of Home Alone, isn't it?
When he was doing the light bulbs,
yeah.
I was like, oh, they're going to turn on the switch and it's going to pop and explode and it's going to be... Nope, he didn't even do that.
Nope, just shot it.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was like, well, that's one way to explode. Yep, that works too.
It was full on, absolutely full on. I mean, is this Frank's version of his corridor scene, just because he was along corridors quite a lot? But I mean, I've never seen so many point blank guns to the face. Shotgun to the face, knife to the face, grenade to the face. I mean, it was kind of like... I mean, I was just there when the guy who had been the police officer, he had just been stabbed, then run through again. It just had like the backs of his legs slit open to stop him from walking. I would have just play dead. And instead he's like moaning, trying to get away. I'm like going, just pretend you're dead. Don't, just be really still, really silent, and instead he's going,
You might be able to pick up your paycheck from Anvil at the end of the month if you just stay quiet. But that's kind of my question about the scene. Which is the most brutal moment of this? Is it the grenade in the guy's mouth and then his head being thrown into a circle of Anvil guys? Or is it the moment when Frank stands over the guy who was the cop and goes, "So, do you know anything?" And he goes, "No." And Frank goes, "Fair enough," and gives him a bullet in the head. Like it is literally no pleading with him. Yeah. You say you don't know anything. I'm not going to interrogate you.
No, I definitely, for me, it is that, but it's with the other guy who he doesn't even do that to. Because, I mean, this is literally that kind of medieval thing of going around the battlefield at the end and running the sword through anyone who's groaning. Yeah. And it's just, because, I mean, he literally just looks at the guy and shoots him in the head. And the poor guy then, his head bounces off a helmet that's on the floor. I was like, oh, I wonder if he intended that, because it may have actually hurt the actor, not the. But it was that. It was actually just how relentless Frank is now, you know. And I mean, him screaming out for Russo, thinking that he's there, and wants to confront him. So, I mean, these guys effectively take all of that vengeance, anger, hatred, whatever, betrayal, and I think it was that moment for me where he effectively just pops him in the head without even saying anything, because he's still alive and he's kind of thinking he will be spared. You know, there is no UN sort of human rights or convention here, you know, which is, you know, exactly. So, I mean, it was that moment which I thought was like massive in just brutality of what Frank wanted to do. Along with everything else, of course, but I mean, I just kind of hit home then. Yeah, yeah.
And this is also the first time that the theme tune for The Punisher was played in an episode as well. We heard little strains of the instrumental part of it, and then it actually built up throughout this scene. So we now have Punisher with his skull on and his theme tune, killing everyone in sight, really.
Yeah. Oh, it was just, for me, I just loved this. Like, do you remember Kandahar, the episode of Kandahar, where we see Frank go into that combat rage where he's screaming and like he's just, you can see the bloodlust and he's just fueled and he's tearing everyone apart.
Yeah.
We see the controlled Punisher version of that in this.
Yeah, yeah.
He's not roaring. He does roar for Russo, but he's not just like grunting and like, this is the controlled. You see him go in and he pop. Like that, the slight corridor, it's not the corridor scene, but there's a slight 2-shot scene where you see him go in, he shoots 2 guys, he shoots one other guy, then turns around and shoots someone else, then camera spins and he shoots the third person again, because he had just shot them in the leg. Now shoots him in the head. Yeah. And I'm just like, okay, so this is the level of controlled crazy that we see from the Punisher.
Exact channels.
Yes, channel. That's probably a better word.
So, and the big difference really between the two scenes is in Kandahar, it's very much, I'm going to go in and take all these guys out, or I'm going to die. This time it's, I'm going to take all these guys out because I know I can.
Yeah. I love the preparation. This is also the bit I did love. Yeah. Like, we've yet to get the micro level preparation in some of these kind of episodes where we see Micro does like he starts telling. I suppose we've seen him with the drone, but we've yet to see him with the blueprints, things like that. This was where you see Frank putting the light bulb in. You put him with the fully automatic, like massive machine gun that has like the side loaded bullets, comes out of the packing crate with the packing peanuts. You see the shotgun up in the pipes, like all these strategically placed things.
Really good.
It's,
as I said, this is what happens if Kevin McAllister goes away to war and changes his name to Frank Castiglione and is left alone by his mom again.
Yeah,
it was really good. I mean, the other thing as well, you have the video of Kandahar playing through all of this, and also there is this countdown clock, and I mean, it is, for me, I definitely think it's where it will send all the data to newspapers or whatever. But I mean, there was part of me at one point thinking, is this going to blow the place sky high? Is it going to do that? But certainly I think with the Kandahar image, it's got to be off it flies to newspapers, police departments, and what have you.
Yeah, exactly. And we have seen the installations that David Liebermann has in this bunker for himself. We've seen them before, the things that will set off bombs. And this just didn't look like it to me when I was watching it. It did seem to be kind of indicating that we've got this information to Billy Russo whenever he arrives. We've got all this information. It's going to be going out in 12 minutes. Get your shit together, basically.
I was really hoping that was 12 seconds, and then at the end we would just see the Punisher kind of logo, and it's just going to do that ha 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 with the jaw kind of going up and down in 8-bit or 16-bit kind of like style. Ha 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 ha, you lose.
You are on trope fire.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Do you remember Hackers? Come on. Best Angelina Jolie film ever. But, and yeah, guys, that I love this, but we're missing one part of this whole scene. Frank calls Billy. Like, we get that kind of, for now, the penultimate confrontation, if you will. Like, this is, like, I'm hoping it's one of the penultimate kind of confrontations, where this is going to lead to them. They both want each other dead badly. And you can hear it in what they say and the way they say it.
I loved the reaction from Billy when Frank is asking him, why didn't you come yourself? The guy I knew would have come himself. And he goes, well, I've got people to do that for me now. Why bark when you have a dog? You know, there's no point in doing that. You know, it's that really good moment from Billy where he's kind of going, I moved on, Frank, and I now have an entire company that will be going after you over and over again until you're gone.
Yeah, I mean, it was fantastic, and definitely I agree. The level of bitterness between these two now, you just wonder. But, quick question, who do you want to see take down Billy Russo? Madani or the Punisher?
Oh.
Because there is part of me that wants to see Dinah Madani absolutely rip his balls off. And then, at the same time, to see the Punisher do something to Billy in a different way. And I definitely want to see Frank get his moment for revenge against Billy, given how close they were, you know, again, coming back to this brotherhood. At the same time, I really want Billy Russo to survive the both of them, because he's such a good character and has been portrayed by Ben Barnes. I really don't want to see this guy lost from the Marvel Netflix world in the same way as, you know, the Purple Man, Kilgrave from Jessica Jones. And certainly if he is the comic book character that we think he might be, which is Jigsaw, well then hopefully he does survive the night.
Yes, just not as pretty as he currently is.
Yeah, the way I foresee this in my head going is what we're going to get is Frank goes, we have this amazing fight going between, like, it starts at bullets, it goes down to knives, then it goes fists with Billy versus Frank. And then Frank, much like the comic books, will throw Billy through a window. It disfigures him, he lands on the ground, badly hurt. Madani puts some cuffs on him. He's still alive, he's breathing, bleeding badly, disfigured, but he gets arrested, put in an ambulance, goes to jail. Both of them get what they want. It leaves Russo alive as the main protagonist, or antagonist, I should say, for season 2 in his full comic book craziness.
Yeah, so it's tag team. It's tag team takedown.
Yes, exactly. I think that's the fair way. It's the way I see it. Will it happen? I don't know. I honestly, like, we thought they were going to do something similar with Kilgrave, and they kind of snapped us out of that kind of decision or idea quite quickly.
Absolutely, and I'm not going to take a guess, since I'm the only one that's actually seen the episode. So,
oh yeah, who's right? Who's right? Who's right?
We'll see over the next couple of episodes as the season closes out. Let's get on to our final entry into the War Journal. Really, just because the scene itself is so good, the family is finally reunited after all of this time. David Lieberman been in hiding for an entire year, and we finally get to see him meeting up with his daughter, Leo, who has escaped from the house. We mentioned that earlier on. But I really like this kind of moment because Frank could easily have gone out and met Leo, but he sends David out to do it. And the resistance of David to do it, where he's kind of going, what am I supposed to tell her here? Yeah, I'm still alive. Let's go get ice cream. It's another one of these moments where David has to step up and be a real man with the help of Frank here. And the actress who plays his daughter, Leo, is fantastic in this scene. There's some huge amount of emotion for a character this young to be going through, and she just sells it so well, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I think Ripley Sobo, who plays Leo, is really great in this scene. And it's just really touching. And I think, again, this is where this series to me is fantastic, because they can chop and change really quickly on a dime here. Mm-hmm. From going from, the Punisher returning and giving it the full whack of guns, bullets, knives, fists, and violence, to this moment where David is like, well, yeah, how do I do this? He's awkward. He's scared as well. He doesn't know what their reaction's going to be. And in the end, you get that reconnection at the pool in the park, and then the reconnection in the Punisher van. Mm-hmm. And it is just really nice to see. It's really emotional. It's really touching. They've got a lot to learn about one another still, and it's really good. And it's that contrast that is done and is done in a way that works so well. And I just thought it was superb.
Yeah. And
I definitely agree with you that, the performance by Ripley Sobo here is really good as Leo. I think it's just how she portrays this kind of scared little girl who's running away from her home and then is suddenly forced into seeing her dad without knowing she was going to, after not having seen him for a year, thinking that he was dead. And she puts that across so well,
yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I may have got a little bit emotional in this scene. If anybody's ever seen me watch TV shows where families get reunited, it's my weak spot. I always have a little tear in my eye watching those kind of scenes. This is just played really, really well. She does almost catch Micro in the little secret that he has, that he's had cameras installed in the house, where she says to him, oh, the song on the radio, myself and my friends made up a great dance to this. And he goes, yeah, you're a great dancer. She goes, how would you know that?
Yeah.
No reason. I'm always thinking about you, honey. I just like that again, the smartness of this character comes out. She's always been shown as a very intelligent character, and she picks up on things that he says very, very quickly. I do want to see the reunion, obviously, with Sarah and with Zach later on. I think there's actually a lot more to resolve between those characters and David Lieberman. Obviously, Zach going through this arc where he's been getting violent, becoming a bully because of being left behind by his father. Sarah obviously turning into the arms of Frank because she's lost her husband. A lot more to resolve there. I think Leo's and his relationship is just much purer and much more easily satisfied with her being the first member of the family to meet. I think it was the right choice to have her being the one to get away and meet up with David, because it's just cute. Daddy and daughter moments,
Yeah, I'm going to agree and disagree both in one sentence. Kids are a-holes, but the actress who plays her is fantastic, and the emotion she kind of gives out is fantastic.
Chris, where's your marshmallowy, fluffy inside?
I am not a Twinkie. I am not a... what's this? The yellow birds, the marshmallow yellow birds. Our American fellow defenders can get back to me. There is a yellow bird filled with marshmallow. Sweet, that one. Or I am not a marshmallow. There you go. I may look like one on the outside. As I was saying, okay, first things first, David having to be convinced to go back to his daughter. If I was Frank, I'd be slapping him, but Frank did the right thing. And it's just kind of like, be a man. You were people were screaming at the TV. I could see this the way when I was watching this. I'm like, other people are screaming, like, be a man, go save your daughter. Like, why does Frank Castellano need to go? Why does Pete need to go? No, you go. She's your daughter. When they meet, it was nice. Her first kind of, like, shock at seeing him, like, and then running over. Yeah, the scene in the van where about the dancing, I was like, it would have been fantastic if they had of actually put... He mentions that he was kind of there. Mm-hmm. He mentions, I've been keeping an eye on you. Like, I think that's a good thing. But
let's take things slowly.
Yeah, it's true. The bit that I really, really liked is we again see this really soft Frank Castle. When they all come together, and I'll get to all of them coming together in a second. When Frank pauses a particularly important conversation, stops and goes over to Ripley Sobo, goes over to Leo, and how are you, kid? Like, everything okay?
Definitely.
Like, that's the bit. That would, for me, kind of showed, again, this human side of the Punisher, which we've been seeing, and they've explained it to us, sometimes knocking us in the face with it, like, in his flashbacks, that he is vulnerable. But him doing this to try and save Micro's kids, to keep them safe.
Definitely.
Not so much the father and daughter reconnecting in the van. You may have had a wet eye. That didn't for me. This, for me, was when Frank came over. That was the bit where I was like, oh, that's really cute. That's the bit I'm like, yeah, that's fantastic.
The Punisher officially is more marshmallowy than you, Chris. You are Blackpool Rock.
Oh, there you go. Only our UK fellow defenders will probably get that one. But, gentlemen, let's kind of jump on to the actual part where I squealed like a little schoolgirl. Leo was actually probably more masculine than I. Madani, Frank, David, the team, including Leo, which seems a bit weird. You'd think you would kind of go put her in the safe house, but no. She is now part of Team Punisher. Mm-hmm. She will get her own little bulletproof vest with a mini skull and a bow.
All standing around the Punisher van as well, which is quite cool. So we have seen the van before, obviously, but I don't think we've called out that it is the Punisher van from the comic book. So quite cool to have the new team assembled right there rather than in Micro's hideout.
Oh, definitely. Well, Micro's hideout is no longer safe.
True. or hardly any of it's left.
Yes, you do remember the assault team.
Yes, they were still there.
Yes. But let's just say Mini Punisher, Frank, David, and Madani are going after Anvil, and it's going to be so good. Yes. This was for me another why I live and breathe these Netflix shows. They are so good at editing and closing an episode at a point where you're like, okay, I've got 20 seconds. I really want to go on to the next one. Oh my god, this is going to be amazing. I want to see how this what goes next. They know how to do this. And that scene, the Team Punisher going against Team Anvil, yeah, sign me up, I want to do this. So after recording, that is what I will be doing tonight.
Absolutely.
But gentlemen, unless we have anything else on A Family Reunited...
I've just got one note that just made me laugh. I don't know why. It's when Frank is on the phone to Leo, saying to her how to destroy her phone, how to get rid of it so she's no longer tracked. And he goes, you know what a SIM card is, sweetheart? As if he's talking to like a 90-year-old. And the face on Ripley Sobo when she gets the phone call and hears that from Frank is just kind of like, oh my god, this guy is so old. Just plays it perfectly. It just makes me laugh. I've watched the episode, I think, 3 times now for the reviews, and it's the moment that just makes me smile in the episode.
Yeah, and it was an old school battery as well.
Yes. How do you get a battery out of a mobile phone these days? I don't think they come out, do they?
You don't.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah.
SIM cards go in the side, and you need one of the little SIM card pins, or you need like an earring. I was expecting her to take out an earring, kind of poke it in. We have like that 30 seconds where she's just trying to nope. Oh, there you go.
Factory reset.
Then she just ends up stomping on it, and still not broken because they're more vulnerable. She tries to dunk it in water. The water resistance is still working. It's a Samsung ad. Turns out to be a Galaxy Note that just explodes. But that would have been an interesting way.
I think that's an episode of next season of MacGyver.
Yeah. MacGyver uses a Galaxy Note to blow up a nuclear warhead.
One final note then.
Yes, absolutely. Chris's well-known phrase from the podcast, shits and giggles, comes into The Punisher.
It's finally made it into a show, Chris.
It makes it into the show. Shits and giggles.
I'm telling you, once again, proving that Defenders TV podcast, the writers of the Netflix universe do listen to us, take into account what I say, almost echoing my very sentiment and words, immortalizing them on the silver screen. I went, oh, that's me. No, it's becoming a lexicon now. Like, it's Urban Dictionary, shits and giggles, it's in there.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
I don't know what that says more about Oxford Dictionary when they put it in there. Then I'm a bit more scared about where the human race is going. But for now, I will take this win. Thank you. I'd like to thank God, my mother, my grandmother, my grandfather. Sorry, is that acceptance speech? No? Okay.
Yeah. So we've had Jon in the episodes with his phrase appearing on the lips of David Lieberman.
Certainly.
Saying, my point being. We have Chris.
I'm not saying the phrase.
We have Chris's shits and giggles going into Dinah Madani. Do I get a phrase at the end of the season? Maybe a cop in the background saying, gentlemen, let's move along.
I think... I'm pretty sure you got that in Luke Cage. Pretty sure you got it already.
You've had that in every series of the Defenders and now the Punisher.
So, gentlemen, let's move along.
I'm pretty sure he's had that in every episode of every TV cop procedural since the 60s. But, Derek, would you like to take us away with your catchphrase?
So, gentlemen, let's move along.
Yes!
Exactly. We will move along to the defense of The Punisher this episode. So, Chris, do you defend the 11th episode of The Punisher, Danger Close?
I do. I'm not even going to do a long rambling yes or no. I do. I fully defend this episode. In the beginning, as I told everyone, the very beginning of this episode, I have had my ups and downs. We're getting the fruition of a lot of these story arcs that I was questioning over the last couple of episodes. We see this Home Alone scene, as Derek beautifully described it. Like the Punisher, Kevin McAllister goes rogue. What else can you ask for? Especially when you're getting a Memento Mori emblazoned on a bulletproof vest in beautiful black on white contrasting. I can't talk much more, guys. The violence was beautiful. It was Garth Ennis. It was a Punisher comic book come to life in that scene. I'm really enjoying the wrap up of some of these characters. I really want to see the continued evolution or devolution or upgrade of Billy Russo's character into the well-known comic book character he will become. And yeah, let's see how it all works out. Actually, strangely, and this is maybe my marshmallowy center, I want to see Sarah and Micro meet up again, because I'm pretty sure there is a lot of slaps going to happen there. Micro will be slapped a lot, and I can see Frank going, I kissed your wife. Sorry, I'm just going to stand over here. I want to see the story arc continue. So, gentlemen, yes, I do defend this. I can't say much more. We've 2 episodes left, 2 hours left, gentlemen. That's all that's left, less than 2 hours. But anyway, enough of my rambling. Jon, do you defend the 11th episode of The Punisher, Danger Close?
I do defend this episode of The Punisher. I give this 5 shits and giggles out of 5. I've absolutely loved, I think, the last 4 episodes. They've been such a strong run, and this just continues that for me. I thought seeing the Punisher on screen, his uber violence, as you say, Garth Ennis in brutality and scale, just really, really good to see. I absolutely loved Marion James and Dinah Madani in this. I love Marion's confrontation with Rawlins. I loved Marion and Madani's confrontation with each other. It was just really, really great. The little, the family reunion of Micro, I liked how that kind of came together as well. And again, just the continuing brilliance of Billy Russo with Frank Castle, with Jon Bernthal, that sort of ever decreasing relationship and degradation of it, I just think is really tense, really good stuff, and I just thought it was fantastic. I cannot wait to go to episode 12 and 13, because I just feel these are going to be something special, definitely. So I do defend this episode of The Punisher. Derek, moving on to you. Do you defend this episode of The Punisher?
I do defend this episode of The Punisher. Yeah, this is a great episode. It's a great episode for Dinah Madani. Amber Rose Revah playing that part in the moments in this episode are some of the best that she's done. The pure anger and viciousness that's coming out from under her, every word that she says, is fantastic. As we mentioned, love Leo in this episode, love Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio in this episode. There's so much going on around the periphery. I was trying to explain, after we watched the episode, I was trying to explain what I'm loving about the Punisher series more than others, and I think it's because so many of the characters are fleshed out in this show. So many of even the bit part actors that come in and out, it feels much more like a city that's alive. It feels like other stories are going on all the time. It's not just one central storyline that's being spread thin over 13 episodes. It feels like there's lots of things going on, and they're connecting very well in the show. So this series so far has been fantastic, and I'm really looking forward to getting into talking about our last 2 episodes.
Excellent. So another 3 defends out of 3 for The Punisher. Let's see what our listeners think. We have some feedback for this episode and the previous episode, last week's episode as well. Remember, voicemail your thoughts through the interweb at defenderstvpodcast.com. Go to the right-hand side of the screen and you can leave 90 seconds of your immense thoughts on voicemail. There is also feedback at defenderstvpodcast.com if you want to write down your immense thoughts and send them by email to us. And of course, we have Facebook group. Just come on over, join everyone on there to discuss, comment about anything on the Punisher series. Just head on over to facebook.com/groups/Defenders TV Podcast.
A first piece of feedback came in through our YouTube channel, actually, weirdly, this week.
Damn it, I missed that one.
It's all right. They're only the audio versions of the podcast up on YouTube. But it came from Teresa MLA. She says, it did take a second viewing to see the episode, but in Karen's version of events, we do see her pick up a gun from the floor. She does tell Mahoney later it wasn't really my gun anyway, or something like that, when she's talking about when Frank took her hostage. So there is a moment where Karen gets another gun, and that's what she uses to shoot Lewis in the foot. It wasn't her gun from her bag because she'd lost that.
Yeah, great part. Really interesting. Good catch, Teresa. I have to say, I really enjoyed, and I probably didn't get my thoughts in on this bit, so I'm just going to slip them in. The fact that a card-carrying member with a concealed weapon permit goes to interview the anti-gun politician, I thought was fantastic. And the fact that Billy calls it out, I'm like, yeah! She always carries a weapon in her bag. But they called it out. The fact they called it out that it's downstairs was fantastic.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, so I'm going to jump on then, gentlemen. Over on Facebook, Robert Phillips left us this great piece of feedback. Sarah stealing, Zach capturing, Dad reunited with family, and the Trident of Justice finally getting together with a small girl in tow under the arches. The Punisher was back with his vengeance, and there was nothing that could satisfy him but blood, brains, and death. He didn't look that happy though, did he, after he wreaked destruction on the kill squad sent for him. It was very nice to see Madani get the boss on her side and put a clear line down for everyone to see. Feels like there's nothing going to stop her from tidying up this mess now. However, with all the twists we've seen already, it might be that she doesn't make it out alive. Prediction, episode 12 has to be where the baddie dies. And episode 13 is where he comes back to life, then cuts to black.
Ooh. Interesting. So maybe then, yes, Billy gets snotted in episode 12 and then awakens in episode 13.
Interesting.
Yeah, I can see it.
I like that idea, yeah.
And although that does mean we get another episode 13, which is basically just tidying up. Which, I don't know, do you want to go out on a high, or do you want to have a high and then some tidy up after? I will leave it to our fellow defenders to decide. Personally, I like going out on a high, a blaze of glory, if you will, a rising phoenix, just like Billy Russo, according to Robert Phillips.
I like the last episodes to be split. I like the last episode to resolve issues and also do a kind of a setup for the next time. Get the characters round the table, having their Thanksgiving dinner would be a nice little moment at the end of the season.
I suppose it's that. Is it Game of Thrones, where with the penultimate episode being the big shocker, and then you go into sort of aftermath, or maybe they tidy up Rawlins in that one, you know?
Yeah. We've got two big bads here.
But yeah, I think this should go out with a bang, given that guns are a big feature of The Punisher. I definitely think, a good episode 13. It can still cut to black with eyes after eyes have opened, maybe just in the credits, a bit like with Daredevil on The Defenders, where we get that kind of thing. So definitely.
Maybe. And yeah, I also agree with Robert here. Frank did not look very happy once he'd wreaked his destruction on the kill squad. Probably because he didn't get his man. He obviously didn't get to kill Billy Russo, who he was setting this whole plan up to get. He wasn't there to kill every member of Anvil that he sent after him. He was there to kill Billy. But Frank hardly ever looks happy in this show, though. So
no.
It's hard to tell. But
he does go gooey eyes. We see that with him in the elevator with Karen Page.
That's true.
From the last episode.
Yeah.
And we see his soft caramel-like centre, obviously, with the protection that he feels for Leo.
That's true.
We have another piece of feedback over at our Facebook group as well from Ronaldo. He says, loved Micro's mini explanation why he can so nonchalantly stitch up a wound. I wanted to be a vet, stitch up a few birds growing up. Glad the writers at least acknowledge that a normal person can't stitch up a bloodied wound without at least flinching at the thought of it, or maybe it's just me who's squeamish. He goes on to say, a great scene with Billy's men masquerading as cops, abducting Micro's family. Also, Frank using the decapitated head in the climax certainly showed a new side of the Punisher, previously portrayed as a professional soldier. The macabre use of their head highlighted the depths Frank is willing to go and the anger that's built within him from Billy's betrayal. Dark stuff. Dark stuff indeed, absolutely. I love that kind of little idea that, not everyone can do a stitch in 9, so it's really good that, there's a little bit of sort of explanation about that. The Punisher returning and him going dark and macabre was really just fantastic,
absolutely.
This is certainly, like you said, Chris, as well, straight from Garth Ennis.
Yeah. And Ronaldo, you are not the only squeamish one. I find it really difficult to watch kind of operations like this. I know even Micro found it quite difficult to watch an operation on Frank back in episode 3. So it's good to know that he does have some skills in sewing up. He probably wouldn't have been able to take a bullet out of his shoulder or an arrowhead out of his shoulder like happened in episode 5. So he's not that experienced, but at least he's able to do a few stitches.
Yes, and much like Micro, a stitch in 9 to save some time. We don't have that much feedback in this episode, so Derek, I think you have an interesting point or note for feedback if you want to read it out.
Yeah, I just thought it was an interesting thing to mention. It was back at the Ace Comic-Con panel in the US, which happened this weekend, where Jon Bernthal was asked what happened to his dog Max from Daredevil Season 2. We kind of mentioned this before. We'd wondered if this would be Punisher's dog like he has in the comic books. Occasionally he has a dog that runs with him all the time. And the story between the dog and Frank was never really resolved. Well, we now have the reason why it wasn't resolved, which is at least good. At least we have closure to it. Effectively, Jon Bernthal was asked the question and he said he was supposed to return at the end of the episode, but unfortunately the trainers couldn't make him sit, couldn't make him do anything for them that they needed him to do for the episode. It was only a short time that they had to do it, so unfortunately the dog got fired. So so the final moment was never put to film, unfortunately.
So a bit of a Dog's Day afternoon.
Yes,
if you will.
Just a bit, yeah.
Yes.
He made a real dog's dinner of it.
He did. It was a bit rough.
Max. Yes.
A bit rough, yes. Gentlemen, I think this brings us to the end of our episode. I think we shall wrap up then by saying Ladies and gentlemen, please remember to go over to facebook.com/groups/Defenders TV podcast and joining the old group there and coming along, discussing, giving us your feedback. Or, if you want, just follow us on Twitter @DefendersCast. Or, why not go over to Apple Podcast and write a review, share the love. But more importantly, don't forget, and this is the most important thing, share this podcast with your grannies and granddads. They will love this episode. They will love the dulcet tones that we pipe across the interwebs airwaves. And fellow Defenders, don't forget to subscribe at DefendersTVPodcast.com. That is more important.
Yes.
We'll be back with our review of Punisher Episode 12 Home next Friday, the 26th of January. And every week from there on until, well, just one more week. But actually, we'll be back pretty soon as well, because our favourite Wakanda King is coming back to the big screen.
Yes, Black Panther is coming.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, so we will be seeing our Wakandan King. We will see a beautiful scored soundtrack. We will see history in the making. And who knows, maybe we'll get a few MCU, Netflix cameos. You can always hope. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been episode 132 of Defenders TV Podcast. I am Chris Jones.
I'm John.
And I'm Derek.
And, fellow Defenders, we will be back soon. Thank you very much for following us along on our War Journal this episode. You'll have all three of us here for our final, penultimate episode going into the finale, as we will be here and give you whether we defend Punisher episode 12 and episode 13. So off for now.
Thanks so much for listening. We'll talk to you again next week.
As always, thank you so much for listening. Like Marion from the CIA, I am off to have a panic attack because of how exciting The Punisher is. We'll speak with you again next time. Thanks for listening. Bye.
I hear a lot of people saying the blues, but I'm gonna tell you what the blues is. When you ain't got no money, you got the blues. When you ain't got no money.
And a nerd and geek for Marvel Labs.
Well, absolutely.
We call them out.
We have to grate our cheese somehow.
It is true. No, I'm this guys. I want to. Sorry.
It is true. No! It's like your inner voice told you to say no.
Yeah, it is true. That is very true. There is a lot of cheddar cheese, and we need to grate it.
But the only thing is, isn't it a washboard? So I should have said, is that
Washboard abs or cheese grater abs?
Can
It's
use
the
cheese
same.
grater.
Can you have cheese grate? Okay, I just thought I got that really wrong.
Or maybe you did. A washboard. No, it is a washboard stomach, like would be the move.
Yeah.
Do you want to go back? Go on. Do it now.
I can't remember what it's...
It was we have to have somewhere to grate our cheese. So you can...
Yeah, we definitely have to have somewhere to wash our laundry on, other than a washing machine.
Like the Punisher, Kevin McAllister goes rogue. What else can you ask for? Especially when you're getting a memento mori. Especially when you're getting cops right outside coming to take me away.